It's 6:12 a.m. An armored cash-in-transit truck rolls out of a secure depot on the edge of the city. Two armed guards sit in the back. The doors are sealed. The locks are intact. Inside the vault, $18 million in cash. This route has been driven hundreds of times. Same streets, same timing, same procedures. The driver has been with the company for 11 years. No disciplinary records, no debt, no red flags. He's considered the safest person in the vehicle. 47 minutes later, the truck will be found empty. No bullet holes, no forced entry, no disabled GPS. No emergency alarm triggered. The guards are alive. The weapons are untouched. The doors were opened correctly. And the driver is gone. Here's the part that makes this story hard to believe. The driver didn't break into the truck. He didn't threaten anyone. He didn't disable a single system. He didn't violate protocol. Not one line. Every action he took was documented, authorized, logged. The company's own records confirmed it. According to the system, nothing illegal happened. And yet, $18 million disappeared. This wasn't a robbery. It wasn't a hijacking. It wasn't even a crime in the traditional sense. It was something far more dangerous. A man who understood the rules so well that he used them exactly as written and walked away with everything. Cash in transit is one of the most controlled industries on earth. Every truck is armored. Every route is timed. Every stop is logged. The vehicle is protected by layered security, reinforced steel doors, biometric locks, internal cameras, GPS tracking, and silent alarms connected directly to a central monitoring center. No single person has full control. The driver controls movement. The guards control access. The system controls everything else. Routes are planned days in advance. Deviations require justification. Stops are only allowed under specific conditions. All of them written, approved, and documented. If something goes wrong, alarms trigger automatically. If someone tries to force entry, the system locks down. If the truck stops too long, someone calls. This system has moved billions of dollars for decades, and according to every audit, every checklist, every report, it works. On paper, the system looks flawless. In reality, it runs on routine. Most days, nothing happens. Most stops are normal. Most reports are approved without hesitation. Monitoring staff are trained to react to threats, not compliance. They watch for alarms, deviations. Panic. They don't question things that look familiar. A routine stop doesn't raise concern. A correctly worded report doesn't trigger review. A trusted driver doesn't invite suspicion. Over time, the system learns a dangerous habit. It stops asking questions when everything looks correct. And that's where its real weakness lies. Not in what it blocks, but in what it quietly allows to pass without resistance. The driver wasn't new. He had been behind that wheel for 11 years, passed every background check, cleared every psychological evaluation, renewed every certification on time. No criminal record, no financial pressure, no complaints from colleagues. To the company, he wasn't a risk. He was reliability. He knew the routes by memory. He knew the timing windows. He knew which situations allowed a stop and which didn't. More importantly, he knew something the system never questioned. The driver is the only person legally allowed to make decisions on the move. If he says the vehicle must stop for safety, the system listens. If he reports a procedural issue, the guards must comply. If he follows the checklist, no alarm is triggered. The system assumes one thing, that the person trusted to follow the rules will never use them against it. He didn't plan this in a single night for months. He watched how exceptions were handled, which stops triggered callbacks, which reports were reviewed carefully, which ones were approved without a second glance. He learned the language of the system, not the technology, the paperwork. Which words raised questions, which phrases closed cases. He memorized the exact duration before a stopped vehicle became suspicious. He noted how long it took for monitoring staff to escalate concerns. He learned when silence meant approval. Nothing he prepared was illegal. Nothing he practiced violated protocol. He wasn't looking for a way to break the system. He was looking for the one moment where the system would step aside, because the rules told it to. There was a moment when this could still be stopped, not by technology, not by alarms, only by doubt. If someone questioned the stop, if someone hesitated, if someone asked a follow-up that wasn't required. But the system doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards consistency. Once the report was filed, the process moved forward automatically. No second approval, no human override. At that point, nothing illegal had happened. Nothing unusual had occurred. And yet, the outcome was already locked in from there on. This wasn't about execution anymore. It was about time catching up to a decision the system had already accepted as valid. The moment the truck stopped, the clock began according to protocol. A safety stop could last up to 12 minutes before it required escalation. After that, the monitoring center would call, then supervisors, then law enforcement. He knew this window exactly. 12 minutes where no alarms would sound, no locks would engage, no emergency procedures would activate. The guards checked the dashboard. Everything looked normal. The driver reported a procedural anomaly, used the correct terminology, filed the stop exactly as instructed. The system accepted it. Inside the truck, nothing felt urgent, no shouting, no panic, just routine. Outside, time was disappearing. Every second mattered, not because something was happening, but because nothing was. When systems are designed to react to threats, they struggle with situations that look perfectly compliant. And for the first 7 minutes, this stop looked exactly like that. He didn't rush. That was the most important part. The location had been chosen months earlier, out of camera range, legally accessible, close enough to rejoin the route without suspicion. He followed the checklist step by step, opened the door using his assigned credentials, logged the action, closed it again. The guards never drew their weapons. There was no reason to them. This was a temporary delay, an inconvenience, not a threat. When the driver stepped out, it wasn't dramatic. No sudden movement, no confrontation. Just a man leaving a vehicle he was fully authorized to operate. By the time the 12-minute window closed, the truck was already moving again. Without him, and no one realized it yet. The money was never recovered. By the time the monitoring center flagged the route deviation, the truck was already back on schedule. The guards were still inside. The doors were sealed. The GPS showed nothing unusual. Only one thing was missing: the driver inside the vault. The cash was gone. Every container removed cleanly. No damage, no forced access. From the system's perspective, the operation had failed silently. No alarms had been triggered. No emergency protocols activated. The disappearance wasn't dramatic. It was procedural. $18 million had left the system the same way they had entered it, through authorized actions, properly logged. For several hours, no one realized anything was wrong, and by the time they did, the most important part of the operation was already over. The investigation started with confusion. Logs showed a routine safety stop. Camera footage showed compliance. GPS data confirmed approved movement. Every safeguard pointed to the same conclusion: nothing had gone wrong. Supervisors replayed the route minute by minute. Auditors reviewed the checklist line by line. Security teams searched for a breach that didn't exist. The guards were cleared immediately. They had followed orders. So had the system. The only anomaly was the driver himself. He had exited the process without triggering a single alert, not because he hid, but because the system had no category for what he did. There was no protocol for someone who obeyed every rule and still disappeared. And that was the moment everyone realized the truth. The system hadn't been robbed, it had been completed. Once the reality set in, the system did what systems always do: it searched for a mistake. Investigators reviewed procedures. Lawyers reviewed liability. Auditors reviewed responsibility. But Every report led to the same dead, and the driver hadn't violated protocol. The guards hadn't failed their duties. The monitoring center had responded correctly. There was no sabotage to undo, no breach to patch, no rule to rewrite without breaking something else. The company faced an impossible choice: admit the system had been exploited exactly as designed, or pretend the incident was an anomaly. They chose silence. No press conference, no public explanation. The case quietly stalled. The money was written off. Insurance paid part of the loss. Procedures were updated internally without explanation, and the driver was never found. No arrests, no sightings, no trace. He didn't run from the system, he exited it. This wasn't a robbery in the traditional sense. No violence, no threats, no broken locks, just a man who followed every instruction better than anyone ever expected him to. The system trusted rules more than judgment processes, more than people compliance, more than intent, and that trust cost $18 million. So where does responsibility lie? With the man who used the rules as written, or with the system that never imagined someone would? Because if following the rules is enough to disappear, then the question isn't how this happened. The question is how many systems are still waiting for the same mistake without even knowing it.